Hey guys, hopefully everyone is doing well. Today's target is to solve question number 8.20. Actually, this is not the question taken from the book. An extra question was chosen. There was something misprinted in your original question. So we have replaced 8.20, this 8.20 with your book question. But as usual, this will be perfect question for your practice of spoiled and defective collectively. Both spoiled and defective units are present in this question, and that was our basic purpose of doing these questions so that we can understand if spoiled units and defective units are present in your question at the same time. So this is the view of your question. You can start your reading. Total 50 number of units are ordered, and this company had started its process. The cost of production is mentioned over here. Look, per unit is mentioned. So this is cost per unit of material, small m, per unit of labor, small l. And for FH, it has been said that 100% direct labor cost. All right. And this detail is related to defective units. And finally, you can see that two units were classified as spoiled units. What does that mean? That we have spoiled units and defective units both at the same time in same question. The purpose of doing this question is to get a good practice when both spoiled and defectives are present in the same question. So let's start our first portion where we will be doing this whole question when loss is not charged to production, rather it is charged to department. As usual, we'll be doing our journal entries over here. Let's make our headings. The very first thing over here should be date, but we usually don't write dates and particulars. Beside it, we will write our amount over here, and again amount would be posted over here. This is our journal entry. Here we will be writing our amounts. So why not we should divide it into two parts so that it cannot be mingled with each other. So let's mark half line here, and beside it we will use another line. Alright guys, so we would have these journal entries for the question. As usual, let's start our first journal entry where what we do, work in process for material, again work in process for labor we will choose, and then finally we will have work in process for FH. This is our debit line and we have completed it. Let's align it to the left side. And now what would be on credit side? To material and to labor, finally to factory overhead. Better to write full word factory overhead. So these amounts would be considered as credit. Let's align 10 to the right side. First entry has been completed. It means work is started would be considered as your narration. First we will complete our entries. Alright guys, so after completion of first entry, let's put an ending line after it. And we need to put line beside this date as well. mark it to the right side. Alright guys, next we will do for spoiled goods when loss is not charged. So here spoiled goods, and on credit side we will have work in process for material, then work in process for labor, then work in process for FH. So in this entry, first spoiled goods should be written on debit side, align it to the left, and these three entries should be aligned to the right side to create the credit side. Alright, so here your narration would be recovery of spoiled goods. In this way, you have completed your two entries, and finally, we will see our third entry for defective goods. As you know that for defective goods, we write the same entry, work in process material, work in process labor, and instead of doing this, why not we should copy it. Okay, so here you can arrange it at this place, and we are going to do this entry over here, and we need just one more line over here. So let's write our third entry for spoiled goods. And should we write the formula right now? Okay, we can write it. Units multiply by spoiled goods recovery sale price. In this way, our three entries completed. As you know that both defective and spoiled goods would be mixed over here. So we have mentioned both entries. Another line is needed to be put over here. Okay, and here we will mention our FH. So to work in process FH. So guys, in this way our entries for spoiled and defective are completed, and finally we will be looking forward for our last entry, which is for finished goods. Let's write down finished goods, and to work in process for material, then to work in process for labor, and finally we have work in process for FH. Let's align them to show that these three elements are related to credit side, and this first element is related to debit side, marking it, and for narration cost of finished goods you will mention. Fourth entry has been completed. It means first part all entries we have written. Kindly keep it in mind that before starting of your question you have to do it. But be careful, we have read our question and then observed that in this question we have to do a mix up of spoiled and defective goods. Entries we have written, it's time to put their amounts, but obviously you will have to be careful of putting amount and better to use the formulas. So very first thing, we'll go to the question, and you can see over here 50 automatic machine, that means number of units are 50 and their cost per unit. Please uh, be very attentive. This is per unit cost. So number of unit 50, per unit cost of material 80. The formula which we will use over here would be units multiplied by per unit, and we have number of unit with which work was started 50, and you will multiply it with per unit cost of material, that is 80. So just multiply it with 80, and per unit cost, as you know that we use small m for material per unit cost. In this way, first amount would be calculated, and in similar way you will be calculating per unit for the work in process labor, and here you will start putting amount. Again you need units, and you will multiply it with small l, per unit cost of labor. Units are 50, we are well familiar with, and you will have labor cost per unit as 70. So just put over here 70. Second cost, that means work in process labor with its formula we have completed, and now we will be looking forward for work in process of which, but please read it. Factory overhead applied is 100% of direct labor. Labor cost is 70, 100% means complete cost 70 would be taken. Alright, so units multiply by small f to calculate the cost of work in process FH, and then units are 50 for every element. Per unit cost 100% of labor, that means 70. In this way, calculation for this element is also completed, and you are now needed to calculate and put it 50 multiplied by 80. First amount has been calculated 4000, then 50 multiplied by per unit cost of labor 70. Second amount, third amount 50 multiplied by 70, same 3500. As you know, we will apply an accounting principle over here where debit and credit side would always be equal. So here amounts present on debit side would be amounts present on credit side. So what we will do, we will pick these amounts, and same amounts we are going to write over credit side. In this way our first entry has been completed. Now let's get back to the question. During production 10 units are found defective, and luckily we have written defective entry at second stage, and in our question second entry is also associated with defective products. 10 units are found defective and their following additional costs. Now again your attention is needed. When you have seen above, per unit was mentioned, and for defective unit per unit is not mentioned. It means this is your total cost, 200 for material. So it's better we don't have to calculate defective cost over here. Directly we can put 200 for material and then 150 for labor, and then for FH 100% again same. So 100% of labor. Here I would like to let you know how to calculate 100%. 150 was labor cost, and you need to calculate 100%, multiply by 100 divided by 100. That is why Same amount you have written for FH as well. Let's align these amounts to our required, centralize them, it's better. Okay, the next step is to write amounts on credit side, but we will apply the accounting principle over here. Debit and credit side would always be equal, so here you will pick these amounts and write the same amounts over credit side. So in this way our second entry has also completed. Let's get back, and next please understand, on final inspection 2 units were classified as spoiled, and underline this word each. Again this is per unit. Total number of units spoiled were 2 and each unit was sold for 165. Each mean per unit. Alright. So formula has already been written. Units are multiplied with sale price. We can write next. How many units were spoiled? 2. And each unit was sold for 165. It has been mentioned in your book. Again, listen. 2 units were classified as spoiled. Number of units 2 and sold. Sale price is 165 each. So you have posted your amounts, and kindly keep it in mind, this is not part of your journal entry. It is just the working, and you may write this working over here. You may write this working after the end of question. Alright, next target, calculation of this spoiled goods recovery 165 multiply by 2. So we have the price of third entry we have calculated. Now the actual problem has started. We need to divide this 330 into 3 parts, for which you have already familiar with the process. What you will do, this per unit cost we have 80, 70 and 70. These are 3 costs and you may write it over here, 80, 70 and 70. The first step is to take its total, and 80 plus 70 plus 70, so you have 220 as its total. Now come over here. When you want to calculate your work in process labor, simply what you will do, you will take this 330 and then you will multiply it with individual cost of material 80 and divide it with grand total 220, close your bracket, and you will write it as your working. I'm again requesting you, it's not part of working, it's just calculation. You may write it over here or you may write it at end of question. Now for second working, again you will be doing the same thing. Total amount is 330 and you will multiply it with 70 and then divide it with total 220. So in this way your second working has been completed. What is this? Okay, we need to write it again. So what you were doing, 330 was total amount and you need to multiply it with 70 and then divided by 220. In this way this working would be completed. Let's arrange them, and you are going to start work in process FH. For that, as you have an idea that this was work in process material, Excel sometimes deceives, and we have already written these entries. Work in process, this was labor, and third entry work in process effort. But since it was exactly 100%, so you may write it or you may leave it, it's up to you. Work in process labor, and work in process material has been calculated. Since work in process FOH 100%, so you may take it as it is and post over here. That means our entries have been completed. Statements are completed. You will now be putting it on your calculator. So what you will do, 330 was total amount and you need to multiply it with 80 individual cost of material and divided by total cost 220. First, cost of material of work in process has been calculated. For second, 330 multiplied by 70 divided by 220 total. So you have got your second cost, and finally the same cost would appear over here because it is 100%. Calculations are showing. Finally, what you should do, that sum of these three amounts should be equal to 330. Let's check it out. 120 plus 105 again plus 105, just for our satisfaction. So 330 is the amount and we have 330 present over here. It means everything is okay. Finally, to put amount on finished goods, there are two methods. You may choose direct method, with which what you will see, work in process is debit. Work in process is debit. So you will add what, 4000 would be added with 200, and then you can see that in third entry work in process is credit. So first two amounts would be added, third amount would be subtracted to get your work in process material over here. This is first method, but secondly you have to make the ledgers. For ledgers, let's get the space over here. We can use these four amounts over here. So what you need is, let's arrange this space accordingly. We need particulars, and then amount, again particulars, and amount is needed to be put over here. Little more arrangement is needed. Particulars should have a more space as compared to the amount, and you will be doing the same for credit side as well. So here you will create ledger for work in process material. Work in process material. The matter for your attention should be how to put these amount. That is very simple. Simply you will see where work in process material is present. You will pick those amounts. If it is on debit side, you will write it on debit side of ledger. If it is present on credit side, you will write it on credit side. So first entry is present over here, work in process material. It is present on debit side. So you will write amount on debit side. This is your first step. And then you will write the narration. What is at the opposite side? It is to material. So write down to material over here. Next entry, you can see work in process material again present on debit side with 200 price, and you will write its reference. To material is present on opposite side, so you will write to material. The next entry, look over here, work in process material is present on credit side, 120. So you will write 120 over here, and for reference you will get back 120 is present on credit side. What is written on the opposite side? That is spoiled goods. So come over here and write spoiled goods over here. Alright, our ledger has been completed. Now it's time to balance it. First step, take total of both sides. Total of debit side is 4200. As it is easy, we do not need any calculator. 4200, total of debit side 4200. Total of credit side 120. Second step is to choose the larger sum 4200 and 120. Larger sum is 4200, so you are supposed to put this 4200 on total of both sides. So here you will calculate your total. Put this square over here. So 4200 was the larger sum and we are putting it on both sides. Total of both sides 4200. Next step is to choose the smaller side. Smaller side is credit because its total is 120. There you will write balance, and how you will calculate this balance? By subtracting smaller sum from the larger sum. Your larger sum is 4200 and you will subtract smaller sum which is 120. Please note it down. Blue larger sum, 120 smaller sum, subtract it to get your balance. So we have got our first balance. The next step is to, okay, we need to put the amounts because we will erase them and this balance would be disappeared. So 4200 is your larger sum and you will subtract smaller sum which is 120. So we have got our balance. Now these totals which we have calculated earlier unnecessary to be written over here because our purpose has been sorted out, so you may erase them. The second step is to bring this balance downward. So we have got balance to balance brought down, BD it would be called. So in this way first ledger has been completed and we have got its balance, and that is 4080, and we need to put this balance on third entry 4080. Okay, come over here, and in front of this last entry finished goods to material work in process we need to put the answer of ledger 4080. In this way we have completed it. Now I will let you show how to write amount in front of work in process labor directly without making of ledger, but keep it in mind when you will solve this question you will have to make ledger because that is part of your question. So let's go get up. This is your first entry where your work in process labor was on debit side, understood? And then you can see second work in process material is present which is also on debit side, same sign. So you will add second amount which is present over here, and that is 200. All right, and then you can see your third amount is work in process material at credit side, means opposite side. So what you will do, you will change the sign and this 120 would be subtracted. So you have got your second amount work in process labor, but again at this stage I would let you see how you have calculated this amount by simply making the ledger. We are using the same headings from work in process material and simply we will be using headings for work in process labor as well. Now these entries are unnecessary, just erase them, and we will start our working for work in process labor. So come over here, first entry, this is your first entry where work in process labor is present on debit side. So as usual your rule would not be altered if you are making ledger. You will see if work in process labor is present on debit side, you will post on debit side. So 3500 would be present on debit side. To write the reference, just see what is written on the opposite side, that is to labor. And then in second entry again work in process labor is present on debit side with 150. Just write down 150 and see what is written on the opposite side, again to labor. Next entry, let's observe Look over here in third entry, your work in process labor is present on credit side. So come over here and write down 105 and by spoiled is mentioned over here because this 105 you can see work in process labor is written on credit side, and to write the reference you will see what is written on the opposite side. At opposite side we have spoiled goods, that is why we have mentioned spoiled. Alright guys, we have completed our process. Now it's time to balance. First you will take the sum of both sides, 3500 plus 150, sum of debit side, and sum of credit side would be 105 and there is only one amount. Then you will choose the larger sum. When you are making comparison 3650 and 105, larger sum is 3650. So this larger sum would be posted on total of both sides. And why it is not coming over here? Let it be done again. Okay, not coming. So 3650 you will write over here, and same total you will pick and write to the other side as well. So what step you have taken? Total of both sides, larger sum you have picked and write down at total of both sides. Then you will choose the smaller side, and here 105 3650, so smaller side is credit. There you will calculate your balance. How? By subtracting this smaller sum from the larger sum. So larger sum was 3650 and you will subtract smaller sum which is 105. You have got the balance 3545, and in front of labor you will write down this. 1 second. Work in process labor 3500, okay. Work in process labor 150, okay. And work in process labor 105 should be present over here. 3545, yes. And here you will be writing 3545, is it? Yes, 3545. Once again we'll have to calculate it again because previous amount was different. So what you were doing, this work in process labor was on debit side, and then again work in process labor was on debit side added, and then work in process labor was present on credit side 3545. Okay guys, the initial calculations we have made in both ways, direct and indirect, we have got the same amount 3545. In the similar way you are going to make a ledger for third amount, and that is work in process FH. For the time being this would be disappeared and you have perhaps noted it down. You may just take a screenshot for these amounts, and we are making third ledger for work in process FH. So let's calculate it. Work in process FH, these amounts are not needed now. Let's remove them, and we will be making ledger for work in process FH. So come over here, first entry, here you can see work in process FH is present on debit side 3500. So 3500 would be written on debit side of FH. For reference, what you will do, work in process FH was written on debit side, and what is written on the opposite side? 2 factory overhead. So you will use 2 FH as reference. Then in second entry, you can see that work in process FH is present on debit side. Same amount would be posted 150 on debit side. Reference would be same. As you can see, factory overhead is written on the opposite side. In third entry, you can see work in process FH present on credit side. So here 105 on credit side, reference would be same as spoiled goods. Finally, you can see everything is similar 35, 150, 105. So it means we do not need to calculate. Let's take these amounts and you will be posting over here. So finally we have got the balance of work in process FH 3545 and this was the balance you have calculated. Put it over here 3545. So finished goods entry has been completed by its credit side, and now what we will write on debit side. Obviously, we will apply again an accounting principle. There is no formula for finished goods. So simply what you will do, you will add all amounts on credit side. It would equalize the debit side. So first amount was 4080, then second amount was 3545, then third amount was again 34545. So you have got your amount as 11170. This is your first answer for finished goods. So guys, we have completed this part where we have calculated our entry. So just we need to see it again how we have calculated work in process material. 4000 was present on debit side. Again, work in process material 200 was present on debit side, and then on credit side you can see that third entry work in process material 120. So 120 was written over here, and there you have subtracted. Final amount what we have got is 11170 or 11,170. This is amount of finished goods which you have calculated. Okay, so now when you will be making your second part, that was loss is not charged to the production. This is your first part, and we will be now doing second part where loss is going to be charged to the production. But some good signs are over here. We are taking everything present at first part and using all these entries to make the second part. Where your first entry would not be altered, it means it would remain same. And here just we are going to mention this is loss charged to production and not charged to department. So in this way, this would be your first entry heading, and now we are going to make our journal entries for it. Since for defective units, when loss is charged to the production, we will introduce a new word, and that is FOH. So delete them and you will only be writing FOH over here. For that, these amounts are not needed, erase them, and you will add 200 plus 150 and plus 150 again. So we have got our second entry for defective goods. Work is okay, narration we haven't changed, copied. So rework on defective goods charged to production. Alright, let's make little more space to arrange it. So this is your narration. I'm very sure that you have already in your mind entry for defective goods. That is why I have taken short time to elaborate it. Your second entry has been completed. For spoiled goods, what will happen? You will introduce a new row over here where I'm again very sure that you do know you will introduce a new word over here, and that is FH. And this FH, how we would calculate it? The formula is also present and you should have it in your mind. That means spoiled units would be taken and it would be multiplied by loss. Per unit is better to mention. So this way you will calculate amount of FH. These amounts are now not needed. Let's erase them. Alright guys, so spoiled units as usual it will remain as 2 and loss per unit we can calculate over here. Loss per unit. How would you calculate? Cost minus sale. This way you will calculate your loss per unit. Let's get back to the question. Here you can see that total cost was 70 plus 70 and 80. This was your total cost and we will calculate over here 80 plus 70 plus 70. This was your cost, okay, and you have sale each unit for 165. I will let you know again by reading the question. Look, labor cost was 70, FOH was 100%, so 70 plus 70 and 80. This was your total cost 70, 70, 80. Alright, and then for spoiled goods, look over here, sold as second 165 each. So each unit was sold for 165. This is our statement for loss per unit and now we can calculate. Open your bracket, 80 plus 70 plus 70, close your bracket, subtract 165. In this way loss per unit is 55. So let's calculate how many spoiled goods, 2, and loss upon each spoiled goods we have just calculated, it is 55. Close your bracket. Statement has been completed and this statement was just the calculation. Just arrange it in this way. Statement has been completed for spoiled goods. Now let's calculate it. 2 would be multiplied with 55. So we have got our loss. How have you calculated this loss? 2 units were spoiled and it was multiplied by loss per unit. Please understand this was your cost, while you can sell it only for rupees 165. So difference would be your loss, where your cost was 77140 and 220 was your total cost and you can sell it for only 165. It means the remaining 55 was your loss. And here you are needed to distribute this amount at this place and we are going to calculate it. Let's add these amounts. 330 plus 10 you are doing, so add it plus 110, so you have got 440. The only thing which you will change over here, in previous part you were doing for 330 and now you will be doing for 440 and you are needed to change all amounts. 440, 440. Let's start our calculations. For third entry you will pick 440, multiply it with 80, divide it with 220. First amount has been calculated. For second amount, 440 multiply by 70 divided by 220, and as usual you can see that your labor and FH was 100% related, so 140 would be put at this place. This is your second part. When loss was charged to the production, first entry was same. Second entry, instead of work in process material labor FH, you have introduced new word FH. For third entry, new line was introduced FH, and you have completed your loss. And these two amounts now we have distributed into three parts. Finally, we are open to calculate our finished goods. For that we need ledgers, and why not we should copy ledger as well instead of writing again. A little bit easy for me, but when you will be making, complete ledger would be required to be established. So work in process material, first amount would remain same, but you can see that here in second entry work in process has been disappeared, so this entry would not be present over here, and for third entry amount would be changed. Let's see again what I was saying. Work in process material is present on debit side and you have posted 4000 on debit side. In second entry, work in process has been vanished, so it means no entry on debit side further. In third entry, your work in process material is present on credit side with 160. So come over here and write down 160 at credit side. These amounts are not needed now, erase them. Okay, so there were three entries, please understand. There were three entries. First entry we have posted 4000. In second entry work in process material disappeared, no need to write. And in third entry work in process material 160 was present on credit side. In this way all entries are completed in the ledger. First step, take total of both sides, 4000 on debit side, 160 on credit side. Now larger sum would be posted on total of both sides. Larger sum was 4000, put it at total of both sides, then choose the smaller side which is credit. So buy balance would be put over here. How you will calculate this balance? By subtracting smaller sum from the larger sum. So larger sum was 4000 and subtract smaller sum which was 160. So you have got your balance 3840, and you are needed to brought it down to the opposite side. So we have got 3840. So first amount we have got for finished goods. This is your entry, and here you will write the answer of ledger which you have just calculated, 3840. In the similar way we are going to make ledger for labor as well, but instead of making it again, we are just picking old ledger for first part and we will use it for the second part as well. Okay, so these sums were not needed, you can erase them, but let's focus upon next ledger. First we will delete amounts of previous ledger, we don't need them now. Okay, come over here. Why I haven't deleted this? Because first entry amount would remain same. Work in process labor 3500 is on debit side, you have written on debit side. In second entry work in process material, work in process labor has been vanished and disappeared, no need to write. Third entry work in process labor 140 is present on your credit side, so write down 140 on credit side. In this way, out of three entries only two entries would be entered. Here start the process of balancing. First take total of both sides, 3500 here and 140 on credit side. Choose the larger sum, 3500 is the larger sum, put it on total of both sides, 3500. Next calculate the balance. How? By subtracting smaller sum from the larger sum 3500, 140 smaller sum. So you have got your balance 3360 and you need to brought it down as well 3360. Finally, we have got amount for work in process labor as well. You have made the ledger and answer of work in process labor was 3360. In the similar way, we are now going to make work in process FOH ledger. Ledger which we have made for previous part would be used to make for second part as well. These amounts we don't need. Let's delete them and we will now be making our ledger for work in process FOH. Let's get back to the first entry. Loss is charged to the production second part, work in process FOH 3500. Okay, since it is 100% similar, 3500 is present on debit side. So we have written 3500 on debit side. In second entry, work in process vanished. In third entry, work in process FOH is present 140 on credit side. So write down 140 over here. Since labor and FOH ledgers are same, so we are taking these headings as it is, put them over here. So this way our ledger for work in process FOH has also been completed. So you are needed to write answer of ledger in fourth entry. It is also completed. Finally, finished goods. Apply accounting principle. Debit and credit side should be equal. So here simply you will write the sum of these three amounts and 10,560 you have got your answer 10,560. This is your second answer. Please note it down and I am marking it as it has been done. 10,560. I was actually trying to mark it. Okay, it's better to write in this way. This was your second answer and here is your first answer 11170. I am just zooming it off so that you can know what we have done right now. Look, there were two parts and this was your first part. Let's mark it and over here what you have done, four entries were made. Starting from here, this was your first entry, then second entry, third entry and fourth entry. At this stage you can take screenshot. Look, four entries are present at this way and three ledgers you have made to calculate amounts of work in process material, labor, FOH. And everything was present in your screen. 50 units you have made, 80, 70, 70 was the cost. We are quickly reviewing this because review was very important to understand the lengthy questions. Here 50 is multiplied with 80, 70, 70. Then work in process which we have started for your defective goods 200, 150, 150. Okay, that is completed and then spoiled goods were calculated 330. Finally, it was the process of calculation of finished goods for which you have made your ledger. First, work in process material ledger you have made 4000 was debit, 200 was also on debit side and 120 was present on credit. So 4080 was your answer for work in process material. Secondly, 3500 debit, 150 was present also on debit side and 105 was present on credit side. In this way 3545 was your final answer. So please note it down. This is your performa. 4 entries, 3 ledgers where spoiled and defective were present at the same time. This was actually rework, narration for defective goods, and this was recovery of spoiled goods, third narration, and fourth narration cost of finished goods. Please understand these 4 entries and 3 ledgers. In the similar way, you have started your second part, which was present over here. Let's mark it. And then again 4 entries you have performed. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3 ledgers. 1, 2, 3 ledgers you have made. 4,000 was on debit side. Nothing was present over here, so you have left it. And 160 was present on credit side. In this way, 3840 would be present on work in process material. In this way, these 4 entries were completed. You have got your answer 10,560 over here. And for first part, 11170 was your answer. So finally, our question has been ended, and we have learned if spoiled and defective goods are present in question at the same time. Defective and here spoiled. Then how we can solve it? We have reviewed the question. 4 journal entries, 3 ledger. For first part, 4 journal entries and 3 ledger for second part. 8.20 has been completed. If you have any difficulty, any problem of understanding for this question, you are very open to ask your queries through messages, text, or you can directly ask as well. Thank you very much for your time. It's time to say goodbye. Allah Hafiz.